There we go. Right, hello everyone. My name's Claire Woolford and I'm a project manager at Network Rail. So this is me on the left. That's me out on my bike, which I love to ride. And in the background is the Colosseum where I went last year. So I'm a project manager in Network Rail. So a bit of background about me. I studied geography at university in Nottingham. And then I did a master's in climate change. So I really loved doing anything that was outside. I loved going on field trips and I loved sort of working out how the environment works around us. At the same time, I also was interested in joining the army. So when I was at university, I joined what they call the Officers Training Corps, which is a bit like cadets. And I got an army uniform and I went on various camps and I learned about the military. And I got a bursary to join the army. So when I finished my master's, that's what I did. I joined the army and I trained to be an officer in the Royal Engineers. So I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. And then after that, I've joined Network Rail and I work in a signalling department, which I really enjoy. But one of my passions is STEM careers and promoting things like this. So the bottom picture, that's me with Network Rail last year, taking the team out to do some schools visits. Yeah, I enjoy doing things like that. So I'm glad that I've got the opportunity today to talk to you about things like that. Okay, so my military career. So I went to the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which is the top left photo. And I spent a year there training to be an officer. And during that year, you decided which regiment or corps you wanted to join. And I already knew that I wanted to join the Royal Engineers. So I did the application for that. And then I went to the Royal School of Military Engineering, the bottom right picture, which is in Chatham in Kent. And I learned all about military engineering. I learned about what all the soldiers do, what they can build, what they can fix, and how to lead doing that. And at the end of that course, which was another 8-9 months, I became a Royal Engineer Troop Commander. So that was my first job in the army. So I'll talk you through some of that. So what do the Royal Engineers do? This is just a flavour of what they do. They're very varied. So they deal with plant and construction, so lots of diggers in the top left, and they can be armoured so that they can work on the battlefield, or they could be conventional, just like the digger you might see if you saw a building site down the road. We build safe structures. So the middle picture was some scaffolding, and the soldiers have to learn how to build things safely in case you wanted to build, say, like a water tower. On the right, that's boats. So they have a boat squadron. The Royal Engineers arrive first at places. So if it was, a battle and you had to arrive by water, they would arrive first. And they have a boat section. The bottom left is a bridge. So that is an armoured bridge, which folds out from that vehicle. The middle one is what they call a HESCO bastion building. So when you go on operational tours, you have protection from bombs and the weapons, and you have this strong materials that you need to build things out of. And then the bottom right, which interests me quite a lot, was the Geo Squadron, because of my geography degree, and I enjoy maps, and they move into like digital terrain mapping and modelling and the use of GIS. So a bit like your Google Maps that everybody can access. We did things with that and I found that really interesting. So very varied. My favourite job when I was in the Royal Engineers was a bomb disposal officer. So I was really lucky to get a job here. I trained really hard and I had to learn about how explosives work. So sort of back to school science lessons, and I had to learn how you would have say like a battery, a power source, a cable that would connect it, and then something to ignite it. So I had to learn all about that. And then we had to look at what they call legacy explosives. So things like a World War II bomb or a mine. And we had to learn, if you found them, how you would dispose of it safely to make it safe for the people there. And one of the really good things I got to go on was I went to the Falkland Islands. So that's why I've got pictures of penguins in the middle, where I undertook an exercise to clear mines. So the year that I was born, a long time ago, in 1982 was the Falklands War. And that mountain in the background is where there was a big battle. And now, when I went there, it was 25 years later, they wanted to open up to the general public so that people could enjoy the countryside and go and see the penguins, but it wasn't safe enough without people removing the mines. So that's what we went out and did. And then the other two pictures are just examples of some of the other things that we do in the Royal Engineers bomb disposal. After that job, I worked with some junior soldiers and did some training, and then I went on a tour to Afghanistan. This is in the summer of 2009, and we did lots of things to support the infantry out there, and we built a really large camp at Fob Shortcut. So when we first got out there, the soldiers had taken over a school building, but it was really important to give the school building back to the local children. So we built our own camp next door. So there's some pictures there of some of the things we built. We had to make sure that the soldiers had got somewhere to sleep, they'd got somewhere to work, that they were safe, and that they got somewhere to rest as well. So even putting things in like the volleyball net, places where they could phone home was really important. Outside of the camp, we had to improve the roads and we had to build some bridges to make sure that we could have our deliveries in, that would, food and things like that, but also so that the locals could get around, because it was important that they could get back to normal and visit their friends and family and go to work. Then after my time in the army, I decided I wanted to do something else, so I joined Network Rail. And Network Rail has got loads of different careers. So it's primarily an engineering company, but there's loads of different careers within it. So I'm top right, I'm a project manager, and I look after a team which includes civil engineers, signalling engineers, environmental management, ecologists. I look after commercial managers. I've got a health and safety advisor. I've got some designers. I've got people that do procurement, which means they help get the strategies and the contracts out to people so we can get work done. I work with trainers. If we introduce something new on the railway, we need to make sure people are trained. So there's loads of different careers within Network Rail, and you don't necessarily have to be an engineer to work in an engineering environment. So I wanted to sort of highlight that here. And if anyone's got any questions on the different types of careers at the end, please ask me. So the first job I did, I joined a signalling section. So signalling in railway terms is a bit like traffic lights when you're driving a car. So we need to get the train from A to B, and we need to make sure it moves safely. So we use signals to do that. So we have like the middle picture with the light on, we have signals that tell the driver to stop or to slow down, but we also have electronics that goes back to the control room, so that's the top left, so we know where all the trains are at any point on the system, so that we don't have like a traffic jam of trains. So it's really important that we know where they are. So the project I worked on, we upgraded and replaced the signalling cables and signals, and this was between Reading and Newbury. So the top left, we put in these new screens. Bottom left is a power supply point. So these signals out on the railway, they need to get their power from somewhere. So we connect into the national grid, but we have to convert it into the type of electricity that's suitable for the railway. So we put these ISO containers in, and inside that is a big switch room with lots of electronics. We need to make sure that the maintenance people on the railway can access this stuff safely, because you can't really walk down the track when there's trains coming. So we had to build some new bridges and some new steps. So this is an example of some steps near Hungerford. And then we had to replace the signals. So this middle picture here, we tried to replace the signal with an LED lighting because it was better for the environment and cheaper to run. In the top right, is some plant. The picture's not that clear, but just to sort of show that on the railway, because the trains run all day long, you have to do a lot of the work at night. So a lot of the building work all has to be done in the dark, which means you've really got to plan what you're doing, how long it's going to take, what equipment you need, because it's very difficult when it's dark. Next picture. So this is a new project that I've been working on, which is all about manual and automatic power changeover for trains. So in the last 12 months, we've introduced new trains that go from London Paddington west towards Bristol and Wales, and they operate in a hybrid manner, so they can be in diesel or electric. And the idea is that in the future, we run all our trains on electric because it's better for the environment. So the trains need to switch between diesel and electric. And one of the ways they do this is using something called a balise. So in the top left of the slide, there's a yellow box, and this is a balise. And the train runs over the yellow box, and then the yellow box tells the train to lower or raise its pantograph. Now the pantograph is the bit at the top of the train that connects to the electric wires. So it's where it gets its power from. And we can do this automatically using the balises, or we can do it manually by using signs. So again, a little bit like traffic lights on the road, the bottom three pictures show some signs that we've put in, and the signs are sort of coded to tell the driver what to do. So the sign on the bottom left says warning of a power changeover. The two signs in the middle picture, they say put your pantograph up because we're going into an electric area. And the last sign says, like, don't have your pantograph up anymore. It's too dangerous. There's no more electric wires. So I've been working on a project for the last few years where we've put this infrastructure in to enable the trains to run. And there's the train running. So I've got a couple of pictures here of the first electric train to arrive at Bristol from London. That was in January 19. And then this year we've had the first electric trains to come in from Wales into Swindon, and now they go all the way to London, and they also now go through the Severn Tunnel, which is quite a feat of engineering to enable an electric train to run through a tunnel. So it's really good because it reduces diesel, so it reduces our carbon emissions, which helps to prevent climate change. And the balise allows us to switch between electric and diesel, what they say is on the move rather than at a station. So this means that the trains can run a bit faster and we can have faster journey times for our passengers. So you can now get from Swindon, where I live, to London in about 45 minutes, whilst a few years ago it almost took an hour. So it's much quicker for commuters. The next phase that we're going to look at is try to use these balises to tell the driver which doors to open. So the train will go over the balise like we saw in the last slide. And as he pulls into a station, say Swindon, he'll know that he's on platform 2, and then all his left doors will open. So they won't have to have somebody on the train opening the doors, and they won't have to have the driver checking it, because it will automatically happen because the train knows where it is because of a GPS. It knows where it is through the balise, and it makes it quicker for the passengers to get on and off. So that's what I've got. There's a few snippets of my career and what I've done so far. So I wonder if you've got any questions for me.
Hi, Claire. Thank you so much for your presentation there and sharing that with us. So many kind of interesting stories from your time in the army and going through to Network Rail as well. So again, just thank you so much for sharing that with us. Just as Claire said, guys, if you've got any questions, please type them into the Q&A section. We'll go to a few now. I'll just make sure people can see me as well there. So Claire, the first question I've got for you is, was going into kind of the army and being a Royal Engineer, was that something that you always wanted to do growing up, or is it something that kind of that you heard about as you got a little bit older?
It was something that I heard about as I got a little bit older. I can remember going to a careers fair when I was about 15 and seeing the army stand and thinking, oh, that was interesting. But I didn't have any family in the army. I didn't know anything about it. But then when I went to my sixth form to do my A-levels, they had like a cadet unit, and I joined that. And then from there, that's where it sort of took off. So I joined the cadets. But I've always liked the kind of outdoors, and I was in sort of scouts and brownies and things like that. But no, not until I was about 16, really.
And what was it like moving, kind of going on tour for the first time? You said you went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Was it strange working somewhere else?
Yeah, and it was a bit scary. The first place I went to was Iraq in 2007. So I was 24, 25. I remember catching a plane by myself because I joined a unit that was already out there. So I had to catch the plane by myself, arrive somewhere in the dark, catch another plane and like land on an airfield, arriving in the dark. And yeah, it was a bit scary, but I soon got into it, and all my training that I'd done showed me what to do because I spent so long training for it that I sort of knew what to do when I got there.
And then you said you kind of went into being a bomb disposal officer after that as well. This has got to be kind of one of the most nerve-wracking jobs out there. But I'm guessing that all the training you go through, does that kind of keep your nerves at bay, and do you learn to deal with that?
Yes, yeah, definitely. All the training. And when you go out and do a job, like the mine clearance we did in the Falklands, you plan it all in advance. So you know where you're going to walk, what you're going to do. You talk about with your team, like, if we find this, what are we going to do? If we find that, then signal, mark it up, don't touch. So you plan everything in advance, which I think is what helped me with joining Network Rail, because you plan everything in advance in Network Rail too, because you can't go on the railway really during the day because it's not safe. You have to plan everything to then go in when there's no trains.
And you said you were a royal part of the Royal Engineering. Did you have to do kind of regular army training as well to be part of that?
Yes. So the year that I did at Sandhurst was your basic army training. So it turns you into a basic soldier. Then you do your leadership training, which turns you into the officer. And then on top of that, you learn about engineering. There's a lot of training.
Yes, a lot of training, and then obviously going to the being a bomb disposal officer as well, like even more training there. Yeah. And then you said you then decided to then go try something else with Network Rail. What was the decision to kind of go to Network Rail? Were there other options, or did you always?
Yeah, definitely. Part of it was a bit like I felt like I'd done everything, which is very strange when you're still only just 30. But in the army, I'd got out of it what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to Sandhurst. I wanted to join the Royal Engineers. I wanted to do bomb disposal. I went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. I went to Kenya, which was amazing. And I sort of felt like I'd done it, and I was ready to come home really, and to spend a bit of time at home. And then I started to look at different careers. And I thought, oh, the Network Rail, they offer similar types of engineering, from building bridges, building roads, putting in electronics, and they've got a really sort of friendly feel to it. So, and could offer me the diversity of a new career where I could try loads of different things within a large organisation.
And you showed that slide with all the different roles that you kind of oversee in your team and that are at Network Rail. So do you think kind of anyone can be an engineer?
Yeah, anyone who wants to be it. And I think you can be a technical engineer and have engineering qualifications and be responsible for designing or the actual building of things, but you can also support engineering. And we have people in my team who work in the commercial section or work in media and relations, but we're all part of one team that supports running the railway.
And then you said you're working on with the power changeover now, or you have been working on it as well. Is climate change and renewable energy something that you're always thinking about in your job?
Yes, and I think because of back when I studied geography and climate change, I've got a sort of leaning towards it, and especially the environment. I'm always sort of seeking out ways that we can do things better. So we do things within our project team in Network Rail. We try to make sure that wherever we work, we have an initiative to help the local environment, whether that's children or the physical environment. So we put like bug hotels along the railway to encourage wildlife back and things like that. So just small differences that we can try and make.
And then you said the first electric train that arrived in Swindon. Was this a proud moment with something that you'd worked on or had been working on and seen something? Or was it strange? Was it a strange moment?
Really proud, because there'd been interim stages before that, because we sort of spread from London. So we got to Maidenhead, we got to Didcot. But I work in Swindon and my offices face the railway there. So when we actually got the train to Swindon, it was a real achievement because you could see what we'd done. And then people benefit from it.
How do people kind of get experience to see if this is something they would like to get involved with? Are there programs at Network Rail to do this? Would you say kind of work experience in engineering?
Yeah, so with Network Rail, they have a variety of entry routes. So they have apprenticeship schemes, they have graduate placements, and they've got graduate entry. And then they've also got direct entry if you saw a job advertised. And they've got quite a structure of promotion. So there's lots of opportunities. And if your school is interested, then we do STEM outreach events. So like the last picture I showed, that was us going to a couple of different schools. We do things like that. So if anybody's interested in that, then contact Alex or myself and we can pass on details.
And just going back a little bit further, before you kind of started being an engineer, when you were growing up, were you always kind of building things, creating things? Did you like trains at all when you were young?
No, not trains, not at all. I didn't think of trains until like the year before I joined Network Rail. So no, when I grew up, I liked a bit of everything. I liked all my subjects at school. Maths was probably one of my stronger subjects, but I enjoyed everything. And I really enjoyed PE. Like I used to do loads of sport and athletics. And so I would recommend to people just try a little bit of everything. Don't shut any doors, try everything.
You never know where you're going to
Yeah, you don't know where
in your career.
Go. You don't know where you're going to go. Some people might say they're going to be a doctor when they're 5 and become a doctor, but other people will do a little bit of everything before they get there.
And also, you're a female in engineering. Is female engineering something that's important to you as well? And I know Network Rail are doing a lot around that and trying to get more female engineers working for them.
Yes, yeah, that is important for me. And I've joined a group called Women in Rail, where we try to celebrate women in rail and promote women in rail, and to show people that it's good to have a diverse workforce. And Network Rail have been really good to me, in that they promote flexible working. So when I had a little girl a few years ago, I was able to work part-time, which is really good and keep my career going.
That's really good to see that from Network Rail and other companies that are really trying to increase that female engagement in engineering. Just one last question, if that's okay, Claire. Yeah. Is there any advice that you could give or tips that you've learned along the way to those participants that are listening today, for those young budding engineers?
I would say always keep trying. So if something's hard, then try again. When I was at Sandhurst, it was really hard, but I got there in the end. So keep trying. And then if you've got your heart set on something, then go for it. When I wanted to do bomb disposal, I just tried really hard and I got there.
I think that's some great advice. So thank you very much, Claire, for joining us today and taking time out of your day to do this for us. And thank you for those participants sending in your questions. I hope you've enjoyed it, Claire.
Yes, thank you. I've really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. I put an online survey into the chat for those participants if you could complete that after the interview. Also, I hope you've been inspired to take on our Leaders Award competition, and please find our resources at leadersaward.com. So thank you again, everyone. I think we'll end it there. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Claire.